We are having some technical difficulties. Most of which is I can't seem to get this damn thing to work. And so, everybody, welcome to the Alliance podcast. This is Jay Cal, and I'm sorry, this is not the way I wanted to start the show.
Do you think you can do for the same thing for the NWA with your social media that you did for GCW?
I want to. That's why I came to NWA, because I've said this on the NWA on Power, and it wasn't just me trying to get a reaction. When I was 6 years old and I watched the NWA, I thought it sucked. I thought everything was just old and dated and boring. And now, 30 years later, it's the same thing. It still sucks. It's still boring. It's still dated. What are we doing? There's a difference between being nostalgic and living in the past, right? Like, there's no entrance music. Like, if you're trying to attract new fans and someone's turning this on, you just got two guys walking out to fight with no music playing. Like, what is
I
this?
I couldn't disagree with you more about the NWA. First of all, 30 years ago, I loved the NWA. And now I love the way the NWA presents itself on TV. It's no bullshit. It's no like high production, relying on other things. They rely on the action in the ring and the characters that are on that show. You couldn't be more wrong about
now,
the
listen,
NWA.
I think NWA as a company is incredible. I was there for the tapings. I had an excellent time. I was never handed a script of what to say, not even bullet points. Just told, you're talking on this show, which I loved. Absolutely loved. I love that every week since those tapings, the whole roster gets an email. Here are the things to plug this week. Here are the match graphics. Here are the photos. So they obviously want this to succeed. They're obviously trying, and they're going in the right direction, in my opinion. But I think if you want to attract some new fans, not just the old fans like you, Dave, we need to change with the times a little bit. And if I can help in any way, I'm going to try my best.
Whoa. So how about that? I finally got the camera to work. Sorry if I'm blowing up your guys' eardrum. This is the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And those were the words of one Matt Cardona. Public Enemy number one? Is he the guy? Is he the guy that's going to come in and tell the NWA to change? To get with the times? Is Matt Cardona going to go on Busted Open Radio and tell Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray that the NWA isn't doing it the right way? It's unbelievable what the tenacity that this man has on him, the set of cajones, if you will, that he's going to come to the National Wrestling Alliance and tell us what we're going to do, what we're going to see, how we're going to promote this show. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm a mess. I'm disheveled. Mostly because I can't believe that Zack Ryder's trying to rewrite the NWA. Now, our buddy Chris says he's the savior of the National Wrestling Alliance. And I'll hold your horses there, pal. Savior? What exactly has this man done for the NWA? He's a GCW guy. He's an Impact guy. He's a part-timer. Are we going to start being dictated by a part-timer on how we're going to run the National Wrestling Alliance? Goodness gracious. I can't believe the tenacity of that man. I cannot believe the goal of that man. I cannot believe that he would come in and say these things on air. You know, Dave LaGreca is a friend to the NWA. Bully Ray, for all intents and purposes, is a friend of the NWA. And were they going to let that guy come on and say those things? Outraged. Was he wrong? Is he wrong? Does the NWA need theme music? Lamb brings up a very good point. How is Cardona a part-timer when he's more active than the world champion? Hey, wait a minute, Lamb. We just had the world's heavyweight champion defend that title in Jacksonville, Florida, against none other than Monsieur Gangrel. So you can't tell me that he's more active than a part-timer, or that he's more active than the world champion. We just had Trevor Murdoch take the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship to Brooklyn, representing the NWA, teaming with Homicide. Cardona was in GCW, brother. At least Trevor Murdoch was representing the National Wrestling Alliance and that 10 pounds of gold. Jason Feet, welcome to the show, man. I don't think I've seen you on before, but you say we need the Deathmatch King as the holder of the 10 pounds of gold. Chris Drummond says that Matt Cardona is just bringing the NWA into the 21st century. Bobby Bettino says he's looking forward to watching Kylie Rae and Madi Radikowski in the NWA on POWERRR SURGE. And then Doty says he's done nothing to the NWA. Show himself first in the NWA. I'm not against him being the next champion, but show himself first. I mean, that's not is that asking for too much? You know, in the days gone by, there were a top 10, usually 10 competitors ready, willing, and able to challenge for that 10 pounds of gold. And if you wanted to be the number one contender, you had to beat somebody. You had to beat somebody worthwhile. You didn't just come out and challenge Ric Flair for the title. You had to have proof to back it up. Whether you were the North American champion or the national champion in recent years, you had to have some sort of clout to get a shot at the 10 pounds of gold. Adam Pearce didn't wrestle the Maestro because Maestro had wrestled in WCW for the World's Heavyweight Championship. Adam Pearce wrestled the Maestro because the Maestro was the Mountain State Heavyweight Champion. You know, outside of a few rare occurrences, champions didn't just, challengers just didn't get title matches. Remember, Tokyo Monster Kahagas faced off against Rob Conway, not because Rob Conway was the number one contender, but because Jack Stain was injured and Rob Conway was a fill-in. There's something a little bit different about that. NWA Gold says he missed those top 10 lists. I do too. I mean, the significance, right? The NWA has a bevy of talent, and it seems like there's more and more faces coming to the brand every week. But there's some guys who've been there since day one and should be recognized as a top challenger. With all due respect to Matt Cardona, if we're specifically talking about the National Wrestling Alliance, a guy like Anthony Mayweather's been there since day one, has not had a shot at the world's title, right? I mean, maybe not day one because he was injured, but as soon as he was healthy, a guy like a former world's heavyweight champion, Jack Stain, was there since March of 2020, and he never got his shot. And Mims is a guy who's been there since day one. He hasn't had a shot. Jordan Clearwater's been here for quite some time. You know, there's a lot of guys. When has Tom Latimer had a shot at the 10 pounds of gold? So I'm not saying that Matt Cardona is wrong. I'm not even saying Matt Cardona is bad, but I'm kind of leaning towards what my pal over here, Doty, said, and that's simple. Prove yourself. Prove yourself. Chris Drummond says the NWA can't be a superstar priority if they only do 2 shows every 2 months. Hey, you're not wrong. And that's another obstacle that the NWA needs to fix. You're 100% right, Chris Drummond. 100% right. The NWA, as it is today, is doing 2 shows. They're doing television tapings surrounded by pay-per-views, and then have thus far offset that with premiere live events. And that's all fine and good, right? These premiere live events. But I think in order to capitalize on the momentum of a superstar like Matt Cardona, or, in the Discord chat, if you guys haven't checked out our Discord chat, the link is in the description of this video. We've talked about guys like Jeff Jarrett, former NWA World Champion. He's getting his teeth dirty again. He's getting it out on the streets again. He's in GCW of all places, putting in some work. He would be a guy who has, at the very least, has a reputation. But if we're talking about these, these superstars that are coming to the NWA, hey, the original Kingdom, again, guys I would consider have some of that superstar stroke. At least they're putting in the work right now. But to capitalize on this, I mean, we need to see more of these guys, I think, for sure. 100%. It's kind of funny, I had an idea of what the show was going to be today, and I normally listen to Busted Open Radio. I didn't get to hear live today what Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray were talking to Matt Cardona about. I knew it was going to be something hot because they kept plugging away the NWA, and we know that Trevor Murdoch, excuse me for saying it and spraying it, Trevor Murdoch will be on Busted Open, I believe, Thursday. So if you guys are not subscribed to Sirius XM, you certainly should check it out, or at the very least stay tuned to their social media accounts, because I'm sure Trevor Murdoch is going to have a lot to say on that. But I mean, today we were supposed to be talking about the Crockett Cup that the news broke during last week's Power episode. We still haven't even had a formal announcement yet from the NWA, but I heard that is coming soon. We're going to talk about Anthony Mayweather issuing a challenge to Chris Adonis for that national championship. But now the headlines are Matt Cardona speaks, and the NWA is all aghast because they weren't expecting it. They weren't expecting this kind of a reaction, I think. When you sign a guy, you expect him to have some critique, but do you really expect him to do that in front of the world and in front of the a large audience? I bet the NWA is feeling like they have a little bit of egg on their face right now. So let's see some more of your comments. Chris Drummond says those older guys haven't stepped up, and now it's not Cardona's fault that they didn't step up. Okay. That's a fair thing. Roswell says Cardona is a bammer. And I think you mean like a slammer, bammer, Alabama. Yeah, I mean, look, Cardona is definitely bringing something to the table. I mean, his name recognition is helping to fuel the GCW with what they're doing. He just recently won the spoiler alert, guys. He just recently won the Digital Media Championship for Impact Wrestling. I do believe that's going to have a big deal. I don't know. Pro Wrestling Zone podcast says, I would love to see Jarrett come in. And it's funny because the relationship is there, right? Jarrett was a part of the 70th anniversary. He has a relationship with Nick Aldis. In fact, Nick Aldis brought him to the ring at All In, right? He was a part of that entourage. I don't know. Lamb says, imagine Cardona win the title and then throw it in a trash can. Could the NWA afford that? Do you remember when Shane Douglas threw that title in the belt? And at the time, everyone said that was it. That was the death knell. NWA is dead. It's done. But yet here it is, like 30 years later, we're still talking about the NWA, and ECW has been purchased by the WWE and replicated by Game Changer Wrestling. It's just interesting. Chris Drummond says Cardona is not the only guy taking shots at the NWA. Effie did too. Sure, but Effie isn't doing it on a terrestrial radio station that's got hundreds of thousands of listeners. Jason Fiat says, I said this in the pro wrestling Discord. The NWA needs eyes and buzz to help grow the product. Nobody's doing that better right now in wrestling. Also, last name is pronounced Fight. I think I knew that. I'm sorry, Jason. Fight. It's kind of fitting for the show that we're doing here. So I agree, Jason. They do need as much attention, as much buzz as they can get. And I think that's where a lot of people, there seems to be a disconnect. People think when you bring in a guy like Cardona, let me take it 2 steps back. And I'm going to first say, number one, I'm being over grandiose. I don't have a problem with Matt Cardona coming to the NWA. In fact, I think he can help. I think he can be a driving force for a positive for the NWA. My only drawback to all of it is I feel like he's already done it for Game Changer Wrestling, and I don't know how that's going to translate to the NWA, because so for Game Changer Wrestling, the thing about Matt Cardona is it's not that he is from New Jersey. That's not where he gets his heat. It's not because he collects action figures. It's because he's a product of the WWE. Game Changer Wrestling is the anti-authority. It's so much like ECW. It's ridiculous. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just that even the fans, they're the ECW fans that went wild for what they were doing back then in the early 90s, late 90s, and early 2000s. What we have now, oh, did my battery just die? Awesome. Okay. We'll make this work, guys. I have another one. Oh, that was just my face hitting the desk. So ECW's it almost feels like Game Changer Wrestling is the what is the word I'm looking for? The heir apparent to everything that ECW was. The revolution, the rebellion, all of it just feels like it's it feels like the more things change, the more they stay the same. Game Changer Wrestling is doing to modern wrestling today what ECW did to the WWE and WCW back in the day. And I really feel like that's going to that's great for Game Changer Wrestling. I think it's great for wrestling because now it's going to be forced to grow all brands, all companies, because Game Changer Wrestling came out of nowhere. And this isn't a GCW podcast by any stretch of the imagination, but what they've been able to do by mixing old and new, by mixing underground talent that people have never heard of and putting them in the ring with guys like Matt Cardona and John Moxley, and then sprinkling indie darlings like Homicide and Effie and everything else that they're doing. I feel like they're creating this storm, this perfect storm of pro wrestling. The problem with this, though, is if you take Matt Cardona out of that environment and put him into the NWA, it doesn't have the same effect. It's not the same audience. It's not the same ferociousness and, hate. Game Changer fans hate the WWE. Game Changer fans hate the NWA. Putting Matt Cardona into the NWA is almost like, it seems like a better fit. But I don't think he's going to bring that level of heat with him to the NWA. Now, of course, by going on a podcast, or excuse me, a satellite radio show and, bad-mouthing the company he's working for, I certainly that'll generate some heat with the fans, but there's a lot of us, Chris in the audience, who agrees with what he's saying. So I really feel like when you look at a guy like Matt Cardona, yes, I think what he's doing for Game Changer Wrestling is great. I think he's a great talent, but I feel like this is like a retread, and it's a retread of something that's still currently happening. And you put him in the NWA, you can't expect him to generate the same kind of heat. I think the idea is right. I just think the guy is wrong, and it's nothing personal. It's nothing against Matt. I just feel like they're doing this in Game Changer Wrestling right now. How is it different from the NWA? And Roseville, yes, Jarrett did check Effie. Pro Wrestling Zone podcast says if Cardona threw the title in the trash, it certainly would not be a good look at all. for the NWA. Lamb says the NWA needs more eyes was a topic on the Alliance blog Discord today. Well, there you go. It's something that's true. I mean, that's why they're back on YouTube, right? It's not because they're going to make millions of dollars being on YouTube. It's because they need a bigger audience. What they were doing on Fight was okay. And they can sustain on Fight if that's all they want to do and never get bigger. But I know Billy has aspirations of being a much bigger company. It's kind of funny. I have my random shower thoughts, and today my random shower thought was, if Billy Corgan was able to buy Ring of Honor and kind of merge the Ring of Honor with the NWA, and I know this is crazy talk, right? And then make NWA a part of the Sinclair family, not owned by Sinclair, but producing this same show, Power, and putting it on all of the Sinclair syndicated channels. Wouldn't that fit in? Wouldn't the NWA on Sinclair make a lot of sense? Years ago, Sinclair tried to buy the National Wrestling Alliance long before Mr. Bruce Tharp gained control of the brand. Wouldn't it make sense if the NWA was on all of those TV channels, including its Fight subscription and its YouTube presence? Could you imagine what kind of following they would have? Now, I'm not saying they would be great. I mean, obviously, Ring of Honor being on those channels didn't keep it afloat, but I just feel like it would make for a very good relationship. I want to say what's up to the great Hisa. He is here listening. What is up, my friend? How are you doing? Lamb says, click the link in the description and join us. Yes, on Discord, please join us. We have great conversations, and it's the thing, I always want to make sure that you guys are totally aware of this. Nobody's wrong. Nobody is right. We're all just different. We all have different views of how we see this, right? We all have different opinions of the best way to progress, and I think it's so much fun to hear other people's point of views and how they would do it, because in somewhere between my thoughts and your thoughts and their thoughts and the way that's actually happening, there is a good way to do it. And, as fans, we could just talk about it, but I don't know. Bobby Batito wants to steer the ship back to the women's matches, and he says he's looking forward to watching Camille versus Kiera Hogan for the Women's World Championship. And I'm going to guess that match will happen at the Crockett Cup. I don't have that for any kind of certainty, but I'm assuming that kind of a match, that high-profile match, is going to be saved for pay-per-view. So that's what I'm thinking. Lamb says Cordona without limitations equals money. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I really feel like the WWE dropped the ball on that guy. I think Matt Cordona is a hell of a lot more talented than a lot of people think, and I think he could do good anywhere he went. I just think in his role of being the Heat Meister and drawing that heat from the Game Changer crowd, I don't think he's going to be able to recreate that magic in the NWA. Dodie says, we want more eyes into the NWA, but we don't need Game Changer 2.0, Ring of Honor 2.0, AEW 2.0, or New Japan. Perfectly good point, Dodie. I mean, you're absolutely right. Bobby brings back the women. Christy James versus Tootie Lynn. Absolutely. Christy James is one of my favorite to watch right now in the NWA. I know we're going to have a shortage of Lady Frost because she didn't make these tapings. I don't know what her status is. I don't know if she'll be back, but she was my other favorite for a while. So Chris Drummond says, and this is a great question, who can bring eyes to the NWA currently in the NWA? Who could bring eyes to the NWA currently in the NWA? There's a lot of people. I think the biggest draw that the NWA currently has is Nick Aldis. I don't know if Nick Aldis can still do that currently while the feud with Tom Latimer. I think the Pope could be a hell of a draw, but again, they keep putting up these barricades, and they're only allowing the outsiders to challenge Trevor Murdoch, and there's nobody from the inside. But I think somebody like the Pope would be a hell of a great draw. Roswell says, if the NWA can garner some of that Ring of Honor pure vibe, outstanding. That I think that would be a hell of an idea. I just, when I think of, and please don't take this the wrong way, because I do believe that Jonathan Gresham is probably the greatest wrestler on the planet right now. He's very good in the ring, but realistically, if you put Jonathan Gresham in a ring against Trevor Murdoch, sure, Gresham's going to try to go for those submission holds. Sure, he's going to probably go after the legs. But I just have this feeling that you get that big, old, angry Trevor Murdoch pop you right in the face. I don't think you're just going to start working submission holds. I think realistically in a fight, Jonathan Gresham would have a lot to be worried about if Trevor Murdoch decided to go into business for himself. Therefore, I don't think a matchup between the two really makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Hebes. I read that the first time and I thought you said I smiled nice. I do smell nice. I wear the bourbon cologne from Bath and Body Works that my wife really likes. So yeah, I smell nice. Yes, the premier live events. Roswell, I got what you were saying, man. I was picking up what you were putting down for sure. Let me see some more of your comments. Jason Fight says Cardona was over in the WWE. He's over in Game Changer Wrestling. He's a pro. He knows how to adapt. I think he can gain heat in an NWA as well. He did a good job of it on Busted Open. Yeah, I mean, look, you're not wrong. Okay, let me just say that right off the bat. You're not wrong. I just feel like are we seeing something we just saw? For fans of the NWA, if they're not attuned to what's going on outside of the NWA, then it might be like, hey, this might be the coolest thing. But I think when you're trying to get a greater audience, it feels like a retread to me. Just to me, that's my opinion. Chris Drummond says he's the heel on Discord. Nay, my friend. I said a few things about Nick Aldis, and I was almost chastised and castrated for my comments. Bobby Bettino wants to see Flip Gordon wrestle in the NWA. I mean, Flip Gordon has wrestled in the NWA. He's part of the Crockett Cup of 2019. He challenged Nick Aldis for the World's Heavyweight Championship at the first Hard Times. So he's no stranger to the modern day Billy Corgan NWA. But I don't know what his plans are going forward. I know he was one of the guys who was a part of Ring of Honor. I know he had ties to New Japan when before the travel restrictions due to COVID. He very well could end up in the NWA, but just as easily end up in Impact Wrestling or any one of the other places that's available for him right now. Dave Scooby says, who else would you bring in to join Cardona and Knox to possibly further an NWA Invasion takeover? Well, I know it's going to sound kind of backwards thinking, but I think Jeff Jarrett would be a great guy to do that with, because everyone believes Jarrett's a pro NWA guy. If you've listened to his podcast that he does with, why can't I think of his name right now? You guys are all going to say it, and I'm going to hate myself. Conrad Thompson. Yes, I didn't see it on the screen. If they did on his podcast with Conrad Thompson, he talks about the WWE invasion with the NWA and how much he was happy to be a part of that NWA invasion. He didn't really have much aspirations for it, but he felt like it was important that they're putting the title on him. He talked about a few months ago when he first started that podcast with Conrad about how important the NWA was to the success of TNA. And again, we mentioned earlier on this show how he was a part of the 70th anniversary and how he and Nick Aldis have kind of redeemed their friendship from years past. So, I mean, he would be the guy that I would pick. But again, I don't think there's a wrong answer, right? Chris Drummond says Effie would be the guy. Pro Wrestling Zone podcast, our buddy Rick says he'd like to see Megan Bain come into the NWA. Scooby says that Lady Frost is signed to Impact, and that is true, but so is Jordan Lynn Grace, and she just appeared at Memphis Championship Wrestling from Memphis. And, a lot of the talents from, Kiera Hogan is an AEW talent, and she's a regular for the NWA. And with that being said, Miss Mickie James has appeared multiple times for the NWA, and she's the AEW World Champ, or excuse me, the Impact's Knockout World Champion. So it's kind of hard to see. Bobby Bettino says, who will wrestle against Camille at the Crockett Cup this year for the Women's World Championship? I think that's going to be Kiera Hogan, but that's just me. I don't really know. Heeb says, who in the NWA would you like to see challenge Gresham for the Ring of Honor title with pure rules? God, there's no one in the NWA that could, I think, would have a great match with him. I can't think of a single person. That's a good question. I don't think there is a person that would work with Gresham in the NWA. I mean, think about it. The majority of the roster is guys that are 6 foot. Okay. Take a step back. Thinking about the junior heavyweight division, Austin Aries. There it is. There's my answer, Austin Aries. There we go. Chris Sherman says, are NWA fans afraid of Cardona wouldn't make the NWA a priority if he was NWA champion? I mean, sound off, folks. What do you think? Do you think that Cardona wouldn't make the NWA a priority? Like, first and foremost, I don't believe Cardona is becoming NWA world champion. I think that the NWA is very happy with who they have as Trevor Murdoch as world champion. I think historically his ties to Harley Race. I think the fact that he has name recognition, and I think the fact that he's just he's been around. I think he's earned Billy's trust, and I don't think he's a guy that is going anywhere. So personally, I don't think there is. I don't think Cardona is going to win the NWA world title. At least not now. Dave Scooby says, with Chelsea wrestling at Power Trip, will Cardona be there as well? I'm almost certain. Like, I can't see him not being there. Like, how could he not? How could Cardona not be there? If he's not there, that just shows you that the NWA has no idea what they're doing. Because if you have a hot commodity like Matt Cardona and you could capitalize on some of this Game Changer Wrestling post-Impact heat, by bringing him into the NWA for their premier live event, I think that it would be it'd be crazy not to. But it's so wild, right? Because I mean, Trevor Murdoch wins the title, and his first defense is against Attila Khan. And Certified Hustler might jump in here any minute, so let me say this: Attila Khan isn't a draw. He's nothing. He's nobody. And then next up, we get Gangrel challenging for the world title. Not exactly, ground-shaking, earth-defying, you're not going to draw with these guys. Gangrel's, sure, in Florida, maybe he's a draw, but, that's not going to get most people to buy the pay-per-view. And then he wrestled Mike Knox at Hard Times before he wrestled Gangrel. So 3 challengers, and I really didn't have any interest in any of them. So to kind of circle back to what we were just saying, if you don't bring Cardona there at Power Trip, I think you just don't. You're not doing things the right way. Bobby Petito says he's looking forward to Terminus on February 24th. So far they've announced Shane Strickland and Leo Rush, Santana and Gresham, and Kevin Blackwood and Leon Ruff. That Kevin Blackwood is really becoming quite the star. I've seen him in a lot of different places. Willie, I'm so glad to hear it, man. I'm glad you're doing well. Keep being safe, man. Glad you're back. And then Dodie says Cardona needs to I forgot how to spell, WRESTLE, wrestle more in the NWA, not just being there. He's had one match, right? Tag team match with Mike Knox. Now, he looked good in that match. But again, Bobby says he likes that the NWA is showcasing Madi Renkowski. She's a talented wrestler. I thought she looked great in her match against Melina. Can't wait to see her against Kylie Rae. Early reports say that match was a banger, so we'll see. Willie says Camille versus Jordan Grace or Ruby Reyes. Yeah, I mean, either one of those matches would be fine, but not likely. Jordan Grace, again, with Impact, I don't see her crossing over into the NWA, but who knows? So we have a couple matches for tonight. This is the Power Surge. So we're gonna have one thing that I'm really looking forward to is seeing Rodney Mack in action. Rodney Bigard, a former NWA Texas Heavyweight Champion, has had title matches in the NWA in the past. I mean, this is a guy that wrestled against Dan the Beast Severin back in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for the NWA Southwest, and he was such a an important role. He had matches with Steve Corino for the North American title. He was kind of like the guy in Texas for many, many years before he got called up to the WWE. So seeing Rodney in action is going to feel good to me, especially because he trained a couple people that I care about in the business, and one of them being our co-host on Thursday nights, Kevin Lee Frazier. Of course, you can see us every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific for the NWA Power Recap. That's the Alliance Guys podcast. And, we're efforting to have Mr. Rodney Mack on the show at some point down the road. We'll see if that happens or not. Of course, then we have, as the aforementioned, Madi Renkowski versus Kylie Rae. Again, these two ladies are... last week, watching them in different matches, I thought, wow, what a great couple of talents that the NWA has in these ladies. I sure would like to see them square off in the ring. And look, the Magic Genie appeared. We got that match. Another matchup for tonight, and this might be the main event. I don't know, but the Fixers versus Miguel Robles and Fable Jake. One of the great things with the Crockett Cup coming up is you're going to see a lot of tag teams and some tag team wrestling coming to fruition. The Fixers are the Fixers basically got a victory over the Fixers basically got a victory over I can't remember their names. It's the Dirty Sexy Boys. And they had a pretty good matchup. I know it was a handicap match, but really the Fixers were in there pretty much the whole time, and Rush Freeman didn't get a whole lot of in-ring action. So the fact that the Fixers went over a team like the Dirty Sexy Boys means that they're probably going to have a prominent role in the Crockett Cup. And when you feed them guys like Miguel Robles and Fable Jake, you're just giving them an opportunity to look bigger and badder and better. So this should be a good one. And of course, the feature model for this week's thumbnail, Mr. Austin Aries against Rhett Titus, the match from Hard Times 2. This match was a pretty excellent match if you saw the Hard Times pay-per-view. If you didn't see it, this is definitely one that you should go out of your way to see, whether you're watching it tonight on Fight or on YouTube on Friday. This will be a very good match. So all in all, I think tonight's Power Surge, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to have some pretty good action in there, and I'm really looking forward to it. You guys had some comments while I was looking away. So Bobby Batito says he wants to see the rematch between Natalia Markova and Kenzie Page. That would be fun. Sure. I mean, look, they went nuts on USA, right? I like the violence, the aggression from Natalia Markova. And I think if they're putting her towards a potential Camille versus Markova match, I think they're building it the right way. They're making Markova seem like a tough lady. Chris Drummond says Rodney Mack would be a good feud for Chris Adonis. Absolutely. Sure. Why not? Rodney Mack, if he's going to be wrestling more than just a one-off here or a one-off there, that guy can still go. I mean, he's still wrestling for SWE Fury. I think he would be a guy who could really bring it. And, I'd like to see what he can do. He's 50 years old, but, he's still younger than Tim Storm, and that's not to say anything bad against Tim, but, 50 is not that old. Our buddy, the mayor, says Camille needs a legit built-up contender, and Melina ain't it. You're speaking to the choir over here, my friend. I think Melina had a great match at Hard Times 2. You can't take anything away from her. That matchup was a very solid effort, and Melina didn't get the job done. So if she can't get the job done there, I don't think she deserves another shot. And I think what we're seeing now with Kiera Hogan, she won the number one contenders match. I don't know how they're going to build that up. I don't know if it's going to be for Crockett Cup or if it's going to be on an episode of Power, but they're certainly building up towards a title match between the two of them. And Kiera Hogan, at one point she was considered the hottest free agent in pro wrestling. She signed with AEW. She's had a great match with Mickie James that she was unsuccessful in. She's had a couple other matches. She hasn't had a lot of championship success, but I think she's very underrated. We'll see what happens for her next. Roswell says, I want that match, but Genocide has been in the mix. Genocide, I think, if I was the NWA right now, if I'm booking, if Billy Corgan calls me tomorrow and says, here, Jay, here's the pen, here's the paper, you're in charge, I don't put Genocide in a ring until I'm ready to have her go over Camille. Excuse me. I don't put Genocide in the same ring as Camille until I'm ready to put Genocide over. Camille is great. Genocide is getting really, really good. And I think a matchup between the two is going to be a lot of fun. But we already got it once, and I don't think we need to spoil it by getting it again anytime soon. She has been paying her dues. Exactly. Bobby Petito says, I would like to see Lindsay Snow versus Camille. You know, I don't know that we're going to see Lindsay Snow anytime soon in the NWA, especially if we don't get Lady Frost returning to the NWA. It just seems to me that there might be some backstage issues that would prevent Lindsay Snow from making a return to the NWA. I mean, if she's almost healthy, so maybe I'm wrong, but so far I just haven't seen it. What is up, Fiona? How are you, girl? Glad you're here. Pro Wrestling Zone says, is SW Fury still active? It's kind of a weird situation because I don't believe that the promotion itself is active, but their titles are still being recognized by it's like the World Class Championship Wrestling Revolution. I'm not exactly sure if I'm getting the name right. I'm not a Texas expert if you catch my drift, but I think that they're promoting events that SWE is using their social media to help promote. And I think in return that the titles are being defended on these shows, and that if SW Fury comes back at some point, they won't have this huge inactivity with their champions. At least that's what it appears like to me. Rosville says, Haas is SWE champ. Yeah, I believe he is still. I think so. Heeb says, when the Hex drops the titles, the money matches Camille versus AK. Have Camille defend over Marty as well, and they worry about who can take the title off Camille. Yeah, I really feel like that's a good match that they should probably build up to too, but they're not going to do that as when they have them as tag team champions. I think it would be a fun match though, for sure. Fiona says, World Class Pro Wrestling show on Saturday was like SWE show under a different promotion. Exactly. See, like, and Fiona, I know you follow Tim's career pretty closely, and it's this weird thing where like the World Class Pro Wrestling is kind of assuming the identity of SW Fury in some ways. I mean, they haven't changed their name or anything, but they're working very closely with a lot of the talents that used to appear on SW Fury and kind of put their own little spin on it. It should be fun though. Jason Newsom's in the house. What is up? And Certified Hustler says that SWE owns the promo. I don't know about that. Hustler, I mean, with all due respect, my friend, what's your source on that? Because I don't believe that that's the case. I could be wrong, but I don't think that's the case. And then Willie Bowen says Haas was in Impact Wrestling. Yeah, he had that great match with Josh Alexander recently, and then he got a concussion. I know that Charlie Haas has recently agreed to start wrestling for Prestige, which is a touring wrestling promotion, and hopefully we'll get some more from that soon. Hustler says, Google it. SW doesn't even exist no more. I mean, but they do, but they don't, right? I mean, I hear what you're saying, Hustler, but that's not a source. That's just an assumption. They have a Facebook page. They have a social media presence. They're using their influence to help promote events with World Class Pro Wrestling, but they still recognize SWE champions in the World Class Pro Wrestling. So it's so facto, it doesn't really mean that the promotion's gone, but it doesn't necessarily mean the promotion's here. So in essence, you're right because they aren't promoting live events, but you're also wrong because they're not exactly out of business. I like what NWA Gold said is everyone, hey, hit like and share to help AW grow. And y'all, hashtag NWA fam. Appreciate it, Gold. Appreciate you, brother, helping grow the page. I do appreciate that. Did you guys know? I mean, we haven't talked about it on this episode yet, but you could win this title once we hit 1,000 subscribers. Now we're getting close. Each week we're getting close. In fact, I know the last time I checked, we were close to 800 and I want to say 60. We're getting close, guys. Getting there. The road is coming. You guys come there with us too. So with that being said, more stuff that we were going to talk about today that I haven't gotten to yet is, now we did have an advance in the junior wrestling junior heavyweight tournament. This is the old logo. Okay, hold on. I can fix that. I think. As the tournament has continued, of course, we know from last week we had Ari Davari advance in the junior heavyweight tournament. Of course, Homicide is sitting there waiting for the 4-way match. Probably, I'm assuming at the Crockett Cup. But this week we got Carrie, Morton versus Jamie Stanley, and we're still waiting on Darius Lockhart to make his debut. And sure enough, Carrie Morton got the victory there over Jamie Stanley with his pops standing ringside, setting up what looks to be the next round of the winner of Aries versus Luke Hawk taking on the winner of Carino versus Morton, taking on their winner of Davari or Lockhart or Renaro. So it's starting to come together. It looks like we're going to have a good junior heavyweight 4-way whenever that happens. I'm kind of excited to see it. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to happen, but it looks good to me. Let's see. Certified Hustler says Miranda Gordy is her source. I didn't know Miranda Gordy was part ownership of SWE. Cool. Good to know. Chris says if he wins that belt, he's going to go to Nashville and KO Aldis with it. Hey, man, we're not saying anything negative about Aldis. I don't want to mess up my opportunity to get backstage when we get there. Fiona says she's going to be at the Crockett Cup. Fiona, your boy Jay's getting his tickets too. Wife and kids won't be there, but I should be there. I'm trying to get on the floor so I can take some good photos and some good content. We'll see if that happens. Something else we haven't talked about is the wake-up call that Nick Aldis issued to Anthony Mayweather, the former Crimson. Now, we didn't post this on the website, but on the NWA USA, the decree was, hey, wake up. You got to be closing to be a part of the NWA, and you're better than this. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Aldis to Mayweather, longtime friends, part of the Aldis family, but not the Aldis Crusade. They're not in any kind of stable, but just people who care about each other. Aldis reaching out to his buddy Mayweather and trying to shake him into shape. And Mayweather last night on our Pals podcast, This is Pro Wrestling, did this is the end of this week in the NWA, had Crimson on, Mayweather on, and he challenged Adonis for that national title. Now I don't know when we're going to see that match. Maybe it's Power Trip. Maybe it will be on a future episode of NWA USA, or maybe it's going to be at the Crockett Cup. But I, for one, can't wait to see it. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And Adonis really hasn't had that challenge yet. Now he had James Storm, but he handled James Storm, and he had Judeus, and he handled Judeus, and it's just like he hasn't done much with the title, but he's handled all the opponents that have come around him. So we'll see how that works. I'm hoping that it'll hoping that it will work out well for the division, for the NWA, and so on and so forth. Our buddy, the mayor, says, what's up with the new NWA $60 annual subscription? Will they allow us loyals who have subscriptions for $5 per month to continue as such, or do we all have to fall in line? I do believe they'll still continue the $4.99 membership. However, I don't believe that the new pay-per-views will be included in that. That's my understanding. And I'll be honest with you, the cost is $49.99 for the annual membership. So you're basically saving about $10 if you buy the annual membership over the yearly membership, and that includes the pay-per-views. So it's up to you, JJ. It's up to you, my friend. But I did it. I did it because I don't want to wait till Friday to watch the shows. And if I'm going to be paying for it, I might as well get a discount by paying for it in its entirety. Yeah, but the Crockett Cup, more announcements. I mean, we haven't gotten an official announcement of the Crockett Cup yet. And it could be for a myriad of reasons. I don't know if maybe they have the location set up yet. Or maybe they're finalizing details about the dates are supposed to be the 19th and the 20th of February, the Saturday and Sunday. It's returning to the 2-night format. It'll be interesting because 2019's tournament relied heavily on talents from Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and CMLL. This year, I mean, because look, if you look at the tournament in 2019, you had the wild card, which was thrown together in the wild card battle royal. Don't know if that's going to translate into 2022. I don't know if they'll have a wild card battle royal. But you had representing Ring of Honor, you had like Bandito and oh gosh, now I'm forgetting my names. I know that you had representatives from CMLL, you had representatives from Ring of Honor. There isn't a Ring of Honor to pull from right now. Now, I mean, there will be one soon, but there isn't one right now. So, I mean, could the Briscoes be involved? Maybe. Could FTR be involved? Maybe. But for the NWA core roster, when you look at the tag teams that are currently involved in the NWA, you've got, you got La Rebellion. I don't know if the tag team champions will partake in the tournament. You've got Hawks Aries. You've got The End. You've got the Original Kingdom, who are also working for Impact. You got Marche Rocket and Jordan Clearwater as part of Austin Idol's sports management, whatevers. Then you've got the Ill Begotten, and we didn't even talk about the Fixers. So there's like right there, that's about 7 tag teams that I've named, and we didn't even say Strictly Business or the British Invasion. So there's another 9 teams without even calling on somebody from AEW, Game Changer Wrestling, MLW or anything like that. These are just guys who are on the roster. So there's certainly more tag teams available to them that are currently under the roster. And you never know, they might throw together a tag team like Tim Storman and Trevor Murdoch, or Matt Cardona and Mike Knox. I mean, there's so much that they can do, and it seems like some of it's already kind of put in motion. And we didn't even say Dirty Sexy Boys. So there's I just named 12 tag teams that could potentially be in this tournament that are already on the roster. So, but I mean, it's a 2-day tournament. And of course, I'm sure there'll be some other title matches. I'm sure Trevor Murdoch will be defending maybe against Cardona, maybe not. I'm sure Adonis or whoever the national champion will be defending Titus and all that good stuff too. Maybe they'll mix it up over both nights with the tag team tournaments. So that should be exciting. And again, that's coming in March. And March is, just around the corner. It's January 25th right now. We've only got 6 more days of this month. February is going to fly by, and then we're going to be in March. Fiona's going to jump on a plane. I'm going to jump on a plane. A lot of other people are going to jump on the plane to be a part of the Crockett Cup 2022. Chris Drummond says the Rock and Roll Express need to be a part of the retirement tour. Do they? Do they really? I'm not a big Rock and Roll Express fan. I'm not a big Ricky Morton fan, and I like Kerry Morton looked good this week, but I don't need his pops with them every step of the way. I don't. Jamie Stanley and Sam Rudo, the Rude dudes. I forgot them at all. I forgot them too. Fiona said 7 weeks. Look, that's a short amount of time. It's almost there. Willie Bowen says that he'd like to see the Reno Scum in the Crockett Cup. I would too. He also said that he'd like to see Bodega in the Crockett Cup. I would too. Bodega, did you guys see it on Twitter? Did you guys see it? look, Danny Limelight is a friend of this podcast. I put that guy over as much as I can. I really enjoy his work. Slice Boogie's a former roster member of the NWA. He came out and said, La Rebellion, I want your tag titles. Now, you got to remember, Bodega is the MLW Tag Team Champions. They're also the IWA Puerto Rico Tag Team Champions. And it's kind of fitting that, Mecha Wolf is Puerto Rican as well. Bestia 666, he's from Mexico. And they've racked up championships in the, of course, NWA, but also Crash. They have a few independent championships as well. A match where all the belts on the line, I mean, that would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? Fantasy booking here, right? But Bestia and Mecha Wolf, Danny Limelight, and Slice Boogie with like 4 different tag titles on the line. I think that would be dope. I think that would be awesome. And Dodie says he wants the All Japan Pro Wrestling Saito twins for the Crockett Cup. I mean, that would be dope too. I want this tournament to have that same international feel that it had last year, 2019. Dave Scooby says 5150 versus La Rebellion would be a banger of a match. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm sorry, I'm calling them by their united name, the Bodega, but you're right. 5150 versus La Rebellion would be just awesome. And those guys, I mean, they're kind of matched similarly, right? Because your boy Mecha Wolf is a big dude. Like, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's built like a truck. And so he's got power, and Boogie's got power, and Bestia has speed, and Danny has speed, and they kind of blend this high-flying, almost lucha libre style of wrestling. I want to see it. I hope it happens. Chris Drummond says, will the NWA have our presence during Mania weekend? I mean, that's kind of hard to tell. And I'm still going to write about it. Haven't got to it yet. You guys will get a scoop here. But if you didn't know, a couple weeks ago, we reported that Miss Camille is going to be a part of a show happening in the Middle East, in Dubai to be exact. The United Wrestling Nations from the United Emirates Embassy. Oh, easy for me to say. They're going to have a show on March the 7th in Dubai at the Coca-Cola Center in Dubai. And so far, the names announced for the show are some guys that you might be familiar with. One of them would be former WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the Great Khali. The other name associated with it is, Camille, but they recently just announced Adam Shearer, formerly Braun Strowman. They recently announced our very own Tom Latimer, which, I mean, we kind of assumed he would be going if Camille was going. That kind of just makes sense. We're about to report on that. And then recently, Mr. World's Heavyweight Champion Trevor Murdoch said that he would like to defend the title in Dubai. So there's a possibility that something really big could happen here. We saw that in Poland, Nick Aldis, not the World's Heavyweight Champion, but came to Poland and represented the NWA, as well as Chris Adonis. And with all these talents potentially heading to Dubai, maybe there's a working relationship between the UWN, UAE, and the NWA. I mean, of course, that's a lot remains to be seen. But again, I mean, when you talk about some of these talents, it's looking pretty good. It looks very interesting. At the very least, it looks interesting. So you can check them out on Facebook. It's UWN UAE. And, I'm not making this stuff up. Now, somebody pointed out to me that news hadn't been shared by Camille, but I still think it's going to happen. Oh, yeah, and Fiona brought up, Doug is also involved with that, and I think that's awesome too. Doug Williams, British Invasion, the NWA, he's a part of it. Again, Tom, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, our pal Gary Horn says he wants to see Men on a Mission in the Crockett Cup, and Mabel isn't with us. So what, you want to see a deceased man in the ring? That's sick, Gary. Just sick. I love you, Gary. Chris Drummond says the Conquistadors for the Crockett Cup. I'm all about everyone. I don't think Phineas is with us anymore. No, not Phineas. Henry Godwin. I don't think he's with us anymore. Damn it, Gary. You know who I would love to see in this tournament? I'd love to see FTR in this tournament. And I'd love to see the Briscoes in this tournament. And I would love to see Matt Cardona and Brett Myers in this tournament. And I'd love to see the British Invasion in this tournament. And I'd love to see the 5150 in this tournament. And I'd love to see the Midnight Heat in this tournament. And I'd love to see Rich Swann and Willie Mack in this tournament. And I would like to see any good tag team in this tournament. Gary said that FTR would be fun, but he can see the Briscoes before them. Yeah, the Briscoes were in the tournament 2 years ago, so it wouldn't be shocking to see them show up. Holy crap, I lost track of time. It is time for NWA Power. So I do want to say thank you guys for checking us out. Again, we'll be here on Thursday night to check out a post-game recap of this podcast, of this NWA Power Surge. I'm all over the place. Sorry, guys. But that's going to do it for us here. Until next time, we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the Alliance.